Emperor Drakthos stared at the datapad containing humanity's terms. Everything they demanded would destroy his empire as it existed. No more conquest, no more slaves, no more fear-based rule. It would mean the end of everything his people had built over centuries. "I need time to consider this," he said finally. Admiral Tae-sung shook his head. "There is no time, Your Majesty. Every day your empire continues, more people suffer. More worlds are conquered. More lives are destroyed. You will decide now." The Emperor felt anger rising in his chest. How dare these humans pressure him like this? He was the ruler of a mighty empire. No one gave him ultimatums. "No," he said, standing up. "I will not surrender my empire to a species of former slaves. We may not win, but we will not bow to humans." The three humans looked sad but not surprised. President Jae-min spoke quietly. "We hoped you would choose differently, Your Majesty. But we prepared for this possibility." "You cannot defeat the entire empire with one ship," the Emperor said angrily. "We have thousands of vessels, millions of soldiers, secret weapons you know nothing about, such as your planet killer," General Yujin asked calmly. The Emperor's face went pale. The planet killer was the Empire's most secret weapon. How did they know about it? "Yes," Admiral Tae-sung said, reading his expression. "We know about your ultimate weapon. We have been monitoring it for years. If you choose to use it, you will discover that it is not as ultimate as you believe." Emperor Drakthos felt desperation creeping into his mind. These humans seemed to know everything about his empire, while he knew almost nothing about theirs. But he still had one card left to play. "I reject your terms," he declared, "and I will show you what happens to those who threaten the Valdarian Empire." 3 hours later, Emperor Drakthos stood in the command center of the Empire's secret military station. The planet-killer weapon hung in space like a massive metal moon. It was the size of a small planet itself, powered by the cores of dead stars. No defense had ever withstood its beam. "Target Earth," the Emperor ordered. "Maximum power." "Your Majesty," the station commander said nervously. "Are you certain?" "If we fire on Earth while you are here. The diplomatic shuttle can reach minimum safe distance in time," the Emperor said. "Fire the weapon." "Target locked," the weapons officer reported. Planet killer charging to full power. Firing in 60 seconds, the Emperor smiled grimly. Let the humans try to stop this. The planet killer had destroyed 12 worlds that had rebelled against the Empire. Its beam could crack continents and boil oceans. Even if the humans had superior ships, they could not protect their entire world from such power. "Weapon fired," the officer announced. A beam of pure destruction raced toward Earth at nearly the speed of light. The Emperor watched the tactical display with satisfaction. In less than an hour, the human homeworld would be a lifeless rock. Then he would see how confident Admiral Tae-sung felt. The beam reached Earth and struck the planet's defensive perimeter, and stopped. The Emperor blinked his 3 eyes rapidly. "What happened?" "Did the weapon malfunction?" "No, sir," the weapons officer said in confusion. "The beam is functioning perfectly. But it stopped. Something is absorbing all the energy." On the main screen, they could see the incredible sight. The planet killer's beam, which had destroyed worlds, was being absorbed by Earth's defenses as if it were nothing more than sunlight. Worse, the energy was being collected and redirected somewhere else. "Sir," the sensor operator called out, "I am detecting energy buildup around Earth. They are doing something with our weapon's power. What happened next would be remembered in galactic history forever." The energy from the planet killer, instead of destroying Earth, was converted into something else entirely. Across the galaxy, above every major Valdarian world, human ships appeared as if from nowhere. But these were not the small ships that had disabled the patrol fleet. These were massive vessels, each one larger than anything the Empire had ever built. They appeared simultaneously above Nexus Prime, above the industrial world of Krek 7, above the military headquarters at Vorthen Station. "Sir," the communications officer said in a shaking voice, "we are receiving a transmission from Earth." "Put it through," the Emperor ordered, though he already knew what he would hear. Captain Minho of the human dreadnought Soul's Pride appeared on the screen. His voice was calm but carried the weight of absolute authority. "Emperor Drakthos, you have made your choice. Earth Command has authorized Operation Clean Sweep. All Valdarian military assets will now be disabled." "You cannot do this to our entire empire," the Emperor shouted. "We already are," Captain Minho replied. What followed was not a battle. It was a demonstration of power so complete that resistance seemed pointless. Across every Valdarian world, every military base, every weapon platform, every ship of war simply stopped functioning. The process was the same everywhere. Human ships would appear, release swarms of small craft, and then watch as Valdarian military technology was carefully dismantled. No civilians were harmed. No cities were damaged. But every symbol of Imperial military might was neutralized in a matter of hours. On Nexus Prime, Admiral Torkhan sat in his darkened office and watched reports flood in from across the Empire. Fleet Headquarters reports all systems offline. Planetary defense grid is not responding. All military vessels are dead in space. In less than 6 hours, the Valdarian Empire's military simply ceased to exist, not destroyed, but switched off like a machine whose power had been cut. The Emperor returned to his palace to find human ships in orbit around his capital world. He was met by Engineer Sujin, a young woman who had been assigned to oversee the transition. "Your Majesty," she said politely. "My name is Sujin. I am here to help your people adjust to the new situation." "What new situation?" the Emperor asked bitterly. "The Valdarian Empire as a military power no longer exists. Your ships will not fly, your weapons will not fire, and your communications work only as we permit. However, your people are free to continue living normal lives." The Emperor looked around his throne room. His guards' weapons were useless. His communication devices would only work if the humans allowed it. He was still called Emperor, but he ruled nothing. "What happens to me?" he asked. "That depends on you," Sujin said kindly. "If you help us transition your people to a peaceful society, you can continue to be their leader. If you try to restart the war, you will be removed and replaced with someone more reasonable." Over the following months, Engineer Sujin and thousands of other humans worked to transform the former Valdarian Empire. Enslaved populations were freed and given ships to return home. Conquered worlds were offered independence or membership in the Solar Federation. The Valdarians themselves were taught new technologies and new ways of living. It was not easy. Many Valdarians were angry about losing their empire. Some tried to resist, but they quickly learned that resistance was pointless. The humans had technology that could shut down any weapon, stop any ship, and track any movement. More importantly, the humans offered something the Empire never had: hope. Former slave worlds that joined the Solar Federation received advanced technology, medical care, and educational opportunities. Even the Valdarians, once they accepted the new reality, found that cooperation brought them more prosperity than conquest ever had. Emperor Drakthos, now called Citizen Drakthos, lived in a small apartment on a human world. He spent his days writing his memoirs and thinking about the lessons he had learned. In his final entry, he wrote, "We believed we were the strongest force in the galaxy. We were wrong. We were simply the loudest bullies in a very small playground. The humans taught us that true strength does not come from the ability to destroy, but from the wisdom to protect and build. We thought power meant making others fear you. The humans showed us that real power means making others trust you. We spent centuries conquering worlds. They spent centuries connecting them. The galaxy is a better place now. Even we Valdarians, though it took us time to admit it, are happier and more prosperous than we ever were as conquerors. We learned that there is more joy in building one school than in burning 1,000 cities." 20 years after the fall of the Valdarian Empire, the phrase "unknown human ship, our fleet is gone," had become a popular saying across the galaxy. It was used whenever someone thought they were strong, only to discover they had seriously misjudged the situation. The former Valdarian worlds were now peaceful members of the Solar Federation. Their children learned about cooperation instead of conquest. Their scientists worked on healing damaged worlds instead of building better weapons. And somewhere in space, human ships continued their quiet patrol of the galaxy, watching for the next empire that thought it could rule through fear. Because now everyone knew the truth that the Valdarians had learned too late. In a universe where humans were the guardians, aggression did not pay. But cooperation brought rewards beyond imagination. The galaxy had learned to live in peace not because they were forced to, but because they had seen what peace could accomplish when protected by those strong enough to enforce it. And Earth, that small blue world the Valdarians had once thought they conquered, continued to spin peacefully in space, home to beings who had turned the art of war into the science of peace. Emperor Drakthos sat on his golden throne in the center of the imperial palace. He had ruled the Valdarian Empire for 40 years, and in all that time no one had ever challenged his power. Now Admiral Torkhan and the War Council stood before him with news that made no sense. "You are telling me," the Emperor said slowly, "that a single human ship defeated 12 of our heavy cruisers?" "Yes, Your Majesty," Admiral Torkhan replied. "The recordings are clear. Their technology is far superior to ours. But humans are slaves. They are weak creatures from a primitive world. That is what we believed, Your Majesty. But we were wrong." Emperor Drakthos had been angry for 3 days since receiving the news. He had ordered more ships to patrol the borders. He had demanded that his scientists find weaknesses in human technology. He had even considered using the Empire's ultimate weapon, the planet killer that had destroyed rebellious worlds before. But then something happened that made him truly afraid. Every communication device in the palace started broadcasting the same signal at exactly the same time, not just in the palace but across the entire empire. Every screen, every radio, every computer terminal on every world suddenly showed the same image. A human man in a dark blue uniform sat behind a simple desk. He looked calm and confident, with graying hair and steady eyes. When he spoke, it was in perfect Valdarian with no accent at all. "I am Admiral Tae-sung of the Solar Federation Navy," the man said. "I am addressing Emperor Drakthos and the people of the Valdarian Empire." The Emperor jumped to his feet. How is this possible? How did they break into our communication networks? No one answered because no one knew. Their most secure systems had been accessed as if they were children's toys. Admiral Tae-sung continued speaking. "We have been monitoring your empire's activities for some time. We find your methods of conquest and enslavement to be unacceptable. We represent the interests of 847 human colony worlds, along with our allies from 17 other species that you have not yet encountered. 847 worlds." The Emperor felt his legs go weak. The Valdarian Empire controlled only 3 star systems. How could humans control hundreds? "We are offering you one opportunity to negotiate a peaceful solution to this situation," Admiral Tae-sung said. "You will send representatives to meet with us and discuss terms for ending your aggressive expansion." "Where?" the Emperor shouted at the screen, even though he knew the human could not hear him. As if reading his mind, Admiral Tae-sung smiled slightly. "You will come to Earth. Prepare a diplomatic mission and we will provide safe passage through our territory." "Earth?" the Emperor said in confusion. "But Earth is one of our conquered worlds. We control it." Admiral Tae-sung's expression became colder. "Emperor Drakthos, you captured some humans from Earth many years ago, but Earth itself was never your conquest. It was simply a small research station that we abandoned rather than fight you for it. We had more important things to do than waste resources on such a minor outpost." The Emperor stared at the screen in shock. Earth was just an abandoned research station? Not a conquered homeworld? "You have 72 standard hours to respond," Admiral Tae-sung concluded. "If you refuse this offer, we will solve the problem of your empire in other ways. The choice is yours." The transmission ended. Every screen in the empire went back to normal, as if nothing had happened. Emperor Drakthos collapsed back onto his throne. "Admiral Torkhan, how did they access our entire communication network simultaneously?" "We do not know, Your Majesty. Our technicians are saying it should be impossible, but they did it anyway." The Emperor thought for several minutes. He could refuse the human demand and fight. But one human ship had already proven that their technology was far superior. If they had hundreds of worlds and thousands of ships, "We will go," he decided. "Prepare a diplomatic mission. If these humans want to talk, we will talk." 3 days later, the Imperial diplomatic ship negotiator left Nexus Prime. On board were Emperor Drakthos himself, Admiral Torkhan, and analyst He-jin. The Emperor had decided that if he was going to negotiate with humans, he should bring the human who understood them best. The journey to Earth took 2 weeks. Along the way, their sensors detected things that made the Valdarian delegation increasingly nervous. Massive space stations that dwarfed their largest installations, ships so big that the negotiator looked like a tiny insect next to them, orbital habitats that housed millions of people. "How many humans are there?" the Emperor asked He-jin as they passed another enormous station. "I do not know, Your Majesty," she replied, "but from what I am seeing, many more than anyone imagined." Dr. So Young, the expedition's xenobiologist, made another disturbing discovery. Your Majesty, I have been monitoring human communications during our journey. They are not like our communications at all. What do you mean? Every human ship, every station, every colony seems to be connected to all the others instantly. When something happens in one place, humans everywhere know about it immediately. It is as if they all share one giant mind. The Emperor felt a chill run through him. An enemy that could coordinate perfectly across hundreds of worlds would be almost impossible to fight. When they finally reached Earth, the Valdarians were amazed by what they saw. The blue planet was surrounded by orbital rings and space elevators. Huge ships moved in perfect formation around the planet. The moon had been turned into a massive industrial complex. This is not the primitive world we thought we conquered, Admiral Torkon whispered. They were guided to a space station above the planet. From there, a small shuttle took them down to Earth's surface. The Emperor looked out the window and saw cities that stretched to the horizon, connected by high-speed transportation tubes and covered by protective domes. The meeting took place in a simple conference room in the city of Seoul. The Emperor had expected a grand palace or intimidating military headquarters. Instead, he found himself in a quiet building with large windows looking out over a peaceful park. Admiral Tae-sung was there, along with 2 other humans. President Jae-min was a woman with short gray hair and intelligent eyes. General Yu-jin was a tall man who looked like he had seen many battles. Emperor Drakthos, Admiral Tae-sung said politely. Thank you for coming. Please sit down, we have much to discuss. The Emperor sat across from the 3 humans. He had expected them to be arrogant or threatening. Instead, they seemed calm and professional. We will speak plainly, President Jae-min said. Your empire has been conquering and enslaving other species for centuries. This must stop. And if we refuse? The Emperor asked. General Yu-jin answered quietly. Then we will stop you. We have the power to dismantle your empire ship by ship, world by world. But we would prefer not to. What do you want? The Emperor asked. Admiral Tae-sung placed a datapad on the table. Our terms are simple. First, immediate cessation of all military conquest. Second, release of all enslaved populations. Third, reparations to the worlds you have damaged. Fourth, acceptance of human oversight to ensure compliance. The Emperor stared at the datapad. You want us to give up everything that makes us an empire. We want you to become a civilization instead of a plague, President Jae-min said firmly. In exchange, we will allow you to continue existing. We will even help you transition to a peaceful economy. And if we refuse these terms, the 3 humans looked at each other. Admiral Tae-sung spoke for all of them. Then there will be no more Valdarian Empire. We will not conquer you as you have conquered others. We will simply turn off your military capabilities. Your ships will not fly. Your weapons will not fire. Your communications will only work as we allow them to work. You cannot do that, the Emperor said, but his voice lacked conviction. We accessed your entire communication network from across the galaxy. General Yu-jin reminded him. We disabled 12 of your best ships with one of our smallest vessels. Do you really think we cannot do what we say we can do? The Emperor looked at Hee-jin. She nodded slightly, confirming what he already knew. These humans had the power to do exactly what they threatened. How long do we have to decide? He asked. You will decide now, Admiral Tae-sung said. In this room. Today. We will not allow your empire to continue its cruelty while you delay and plan. Emperor Drakthos looked around the room. Through the windows he could see humans walking peacefully in the park below. Children playing. Families enjoying the sunshine. These people had built a civilization based on cooperation and growth, not conquest and fear. For the first time in his life, the Emperor wondered if there might be a better way to live, but he was not ready to surrender everything his empire had built. Not yet. Fleet Admiral Torkon was having a normal day at Imperial Navy headquarters on Nexus Prime. He sat in his large office reviewing reports from patrol fleets across the Empire, production numbers from mining worlds, tax collection data from conquered planets. Everything was running smoothly as it always did. Then his personal communication device started blinking with an emergency signal. Torkon frowned. Emergency signals were rare. The Empire was so powerful that real emergencies almost never happened. He activated the device and saw Commander Velthos's face appear on the screen. But something was wrong. Velthos looked terrible. His purple skin was pale and his 3 eyes were wide with fear. Behind him, the bridge of the Dominator was dark and filled with emergency lighting. "Admiral," Velthos said, his voice shaking. "I need to report an incident." "Calm down, Commander," Torkan said. "What kind of incident?" "Sir, we encountered an unknown human ship in the Kepler 442 system. We engaged as per standard protocol, Admiral. Our fleet is gone." Torkan stared at the screen. "What do you mean, gone? Are you saying your ships were destroyed?" "No, sir. Not destroyed, disabled, all of them. All 12 heavy cruisers. By one ship, sir. One human ship." Admiral Torkan felt his blood pressure rising. "Commander, are you feeling well? Perhaps you hit your head during a battle." "Sir, I am sending you the complete battle recordings now. Please just watch them." The transmission ended. Torkan sat back in his chair, confused and annoyed. 12 heavy cruisers defeated by one human ship? That was impossible. Humans were primitive slaves. They had no ships, no technology, no military. But when the battle recordings arrived, everything changed. Admiral Torkan called an emergency meeting of the Imperial War Council. In the great conference room, the Empire's top military leaders gathered around a massive holographic display. General Krevtos was there, along with Admiral Shandar and strategic analyst Hiejin. Hiejin was different from the others. She was human, captured many years ago from Earth. The Empire had found her useful because she understood human thinking and technology. They kept her as a prisoner, but a comfortable one. "Gentlemen," Admiral Torkan said, "what you're about to see will be difficult to believe. But these recordings come directly from the Dominator's sensor arrays. They have been verified as authentic." The holographic display activated, showing the Valdarian fleet approaching the human ship. The council members watched in silence as the events unfolded. The failed communication attempt. The order to fire. The massive weapons barrage that accomplished nothing. "By the gods," whispered General Krevtos. Their ship took no damage at all. They continued watching as the small human craft swarmed the Valdarian fleet. Everyone gasped as they saw the precise surgical way the human technology dismantled the cruiser's weapons and engines. When the recording ended, the room was completely silent. Admiral Shandar was the first to speak. "This cannot be real. Human technology is centuries behind ours. We have studied their captured ships and equipment. They are primitives." "That is what we thought," Admiral Torkan said grimly. But apparently we were wrong. All eyes turned to Hiejin. She had been watching the recordings with growing excitement, though she tried to hide it. Her people had not been destroyed after all. They had grown strong. "Analyst Hiejin," Admiral Torkan said, "you are our expert on human capabilities. Can you explain this?" Hiejin stood slowly. She knew she had to be careful. If she showed too much happiness, they might kill her. But she also knew this was the most important moment of her life. "Admirals," she said quietly, "I believe we made a serious mistake many years ago. When we attacked Earth and captured humans for slaves, we assumed we had conquered their entire civilization. We did conquer them," General Krevtos said angrily. "Their planet had no defenses. Their ships were tiny and weak." "Yes," Hiejin agreed. "Earth was weakly defended. But what if Earth was not their main world? What if it was just one colony among many?" The room erupted in angry voices. "Impossible! Humans are primitives." "We would have detected other human worlds." Admiral Torkan raised his hand for silence. "Continue, analyst." "The ship in these recordings uses technology far beyond anything I knew when I was captured," Hiejin said. "But the design principles?" "They are definitely human. And the way they fought, that was very human too." "What do you mean?" Admiral Torkan asked. "They disabled your ships without killing anyone. Humans have a strange concept called mercy. Even in war, they try to avoid unnecessary death. Most species would have simply destroyed the fleet." Admiral Shandar slammed his fist on the table. "You are saying these humans could have killed Commander Velthos and his entire crew but chose not to?" "Yes," Hiejin said simply. "And that should terrify you more than anything else." Before anyone could respond, an aide rushed into the room. "Admiral Torkan, urgent intelligence reports are coming in from across the Empire." "What kind of reports?" "More human ships, sir. They have been detected at the edges of our territory. Not attacking, just watching. Our long-range sensors show at least 50 vessels, possibly more." The color drained from Admiral Torkan's face. 50 ships like the one that defeated our fleet? Unknown, sir. But they appear to be mapping our positions. And, sir, some of them are much larger than the ship in the recordings. General Krevtos stood up quickly. We need to alert the Emperor immediately. If there are humans with superior technology operating near our borders. The Emperor has already been informed, the aide said. He is calling for an immediate audience with the War Council. Admiral Torkan looked around the room at his fellow officers. For the first time in any of their lives, they were facing an enemy that might be stronger than the Empire. It was a feeling none of them had ever experienced before. Analyst Hyejin, he said. In your opinion, what do these humans want? Hyejin thought carefully before answering. Based on their actions so far, I believe they want us to stop conquering other species. Humans have always been protective of weaker peoples. If they have become powerful enough to challenge us, you think they want to protect our slaves and subjects? Admiral Shandar said. I think, Hyejin said quietly, they want to free them. The room fell silent again. The Empire's entire economy was based on conquered worlds and slave labor. If the humans forced them to give up their subjects, the Empire would collapse. How many human worlds could there be? General Krevtos asked. I do not know, Hyejin admitted. But when I was young on Earth, there were already plans to colonize hundreds of star systems. That was decades ago. If they continued expanding, she did not need to finish the sentence. Everyone in the room understood. The Empire controlled 3 star systems and ruled over perhaps 50 billion beings. If the humans had been expanding for decades with superior technology, they could control hundreds of worlds and trillions of people. Admiral Torkan stood up slowly. Gentlemen, we may not be the strongest power in the galaxy after all. We may not even be close to the strongest. What do we do? Admiral Shandar asked. We go to the Emperor, Admiral Torkan said. We tell him the truth. And we hope that these humans are as merciful as Analyst Hyejin believes they are. As they left the conference room, Hyejin allowed herself a small smile. Her people had not forgotten her after all. They had grown strong, and now they were coming to help. For the first time in many years, she felt hope. The Empire's reign of terror was about to end. And it was going to end not with violence and destruction, but with something far more powerful. Justice. The Emperor was not going to like what they had to tell him. But after seeing those recordings, Admiral Torkan knew there was no choice. The age of Valdarian dominance was over. The age of humanity had begun. The space around the human ship exploded in brilliant light. 12 heavy cruisers had fired every weapon they had, plasma beams that could melt through the thickest armor, particle cannons that could crack planets, kinetic missiles moving at incredible speeds, all of it aimed at one small vessel. Commander Velthos watched the display with satisfaction. No ship could survive that much firepower. Not even their own cruisers could take such punishment. The human ship would be nothing but scattered atoms by now. The bright flashes faded. The energy weapons stopped firing. The last of the missiles had reached their target. Velthos expected to see empty space where the retribution had been. Instead, the human ship hung in space exactly where it had been before, not moving, not damaged, not even a scorch mark on its strange, smooth hull. Impossible, whispered Lieutenant Caxmore. Sir, our sensors show no damage to the target vessel. None at all. The bridge fell silent except for the quiet humming of the ship's systems. Every Valdarian officer stared at the main screen in shock. Their most powerful weapons had done absolutely nothing. Scan again, Velthos ordered, his voice shaking slightly. Check for sensor malfunctions. All systems are working correctly, sir, the sensor operator reported. The target ship shows no signs of damage. But sir, there is something else. Our targeting computers cannot get a solid lock on that vessel. It keeps shifting. What do you mean, shifting? I mean, it appears to phase in and out of our sensors. One moment it is there, the next it seems to exist in a slightly different location. Our computers cannot explain it. Before Velthos could respond, the communication system activated. Captain Deho's calm voice filled the bridge again. You were warned, Commander. You chose not to listen. Bora, are our defensive systems still holding? A different voice answered, this one belonging to a human female. Defensive screens at 100% efficiency, Captain. Their weapons were primitive. Threat assessment shows minimal danger to ship operations. Understood. Gunwu, you are authorized to return fire. Disable their weapons and engines only. We are not monsters like they are. The Valdarian bridge crew looked at each other in growing panic. The humans were talking as if the most powerful fleet in the sector was nothing more than a minor annoyance. "Sir," the weapons officer said urgently, "they are preparing to attack. Should we fire again?" "Yes," Velthos shouted. "All ships continue firing. Maximum power." But before the Valdarian weapons could charge again, something left the human ship. At first it looked like a small cloud of metallic dust. Then the sensors began to track individual objects within the cloud. "Sir," Lieutenant Caxmore said, his voice full of disbelief, "they have launched approximately 50 small craft. Each one is no larger than a fighter." "But sir, the speed they are moving—" The small objects accelerated toward the Valdarian fleet, but they did not move like normal ships. They seemed to dance through space, weaving around each other in patterns that defied physics. No pilot could control a ship with such precision. "Evasive maneuvers," Velthos ordered. "All ships defensive positions." The massive cruisers began to turn, their huge hulls slowly changing direction, but the small human craft moved like lightning. They split up with groups of them heading toward each Valdarian ship. "Sir, they are moving too fast," the helmsman reported. "I cannot track their movements. They are not following normal flight patterns." The first group of small craft reached the cruiser Devastator. Instead of attacking with weapons, they seemed to simply touch different parts of the ship's hull. Everywhere they touched, pieces of the ship's armor and weapons simply fell away. "The Devastator reports all weapons offline," the communications officer announced. "Their engines are also not responding." "How is that possible?" Velthos demanded. More groups of small craft reached other ships in the fleet. The process was the same each time. No explosions, no energy beams. The human craft would touch a Valdarian ship, and pieces would simply detach and float away into space. "Sir, the destroyer reports the same problems. Weapons gone, engines dead. The Annihilator as well, sir. Dominator, sir." One by one, every ship in the fleet reported the same thing. Their weapons had been surgically removed. Their engines had been carefully disabled. But no one had been hurt. No one had died. Velthos stared at the tactical display in horror. His entire fleet, the pride of the Valdarian Empire, was now floating helplessly in space. 12 of the most powerful ships ever built, turned into harmless scrap metal in less than 5 minutes. "How?" he whispered. "How did they do this?" "Sir," the sensor operator said quietly, "I am detecting that the small craft are returning to the human ship. But sir, I still cannot understand how they work. They seem to ignore our laws of physics." The communication system activated again. Captain Deho's voice was still calm, but now there was something else in it. "Disappointment, maybe. Or sadness. Commander Velthos, your fleet has been disabled. Your weapons are gone. Your engines will not work. But your life support systems are still functioning. Your people are safe." Velthos found his voice. What do you want?" "We want you to stop," Captain Deho replied. "Stop conquering. Stop enslaving. Stop destroying. The galaxy is tired of your empire's cruelty. You cannot do this." Velthos shouted. "The Empire will send more ships. Bigger fleets! You cannot defeat all of us." There was a pause. When Captain Deho spoke again, his voice was very quiet. "Commander, you still do not understand. This was not a battle. This was a demonstration. 1 ship against 12 of your best. And we did not even need to hurt anyone." "Sir," Lieutenant Caxmore whispered, "he is right. If they can do this to our entire fleet with 1 ship, what could they do with many ships?" Velthos felt his legs give out. He sat down heavily in his command chair. His mind tried to process what had happened, but it seemed impossible. The Valdarian Empire was the strongest force in the galaxy. Their technology was superior to everyone else's. Their military was unbeatable. But these humans had just proven all of that wrong. "Captain Deho," Velthos said slowly, "what happens now?" "Now you go home," came the reply. "You tell your emperor what happened here. You tell him that humanity is no longer his to command, and you tell him that if he wants to discuss the future, he can find us at Earth. But Earth is a conquered world. Humans are slaves." Captain Deho's voice took on a different tone, cold and hard. "Commander, you conquered some humans many years ago. You took them from one small planet. But that planet was not our home. It was just one of our colonies. A very small one." The bridge fell silent again. The implications of those words sank in slowly. "How many worlds do you control?" Velthos asked, afraid of the answer. "That," Captain Deho said, "is something your emperor can learn when he comes to negotiate. If he chooses to negotiate, The communication ended. The human ship began to move away, its strange engines making no sound and leaving no visible exhaust trail. Velthos looked around his bridge at his crew. They all looked back at him with the same expression. Fear. Everything they had believed about their place in the galaxy had just been shattered. "Sir," the communications officer said quietly, "what should we tell the Emperor?" Velthos closed his 3 eyes and tried to think. How could he possibly explain this? How could he tell the ruler of the greatest empire in the galaxy that a single human ship had destroyed their most powerful fleet without even trying? "Tell him," Velthos said finally, "that we have a problem. A very big problem." The massive Valdarian warship Dominator moved slowly through space like a giant metal beast. Its dark hull was covered with weapon ports and thick armor plating. Behind it, 11 other heavy cruisers followed in perfect formation. Together, they made up the 47th Patrol Squadron of the Valdarian Empire. On the bridge of the Dominator, Commander Velthos stood with his 4 arms crossed behind his back. His purple skin gleamed under the bright lights and his 3 eyes watched the star charts on the main screen. The Valdarians had ruled this part of space for over 200 years. No one dared to challenge them anymore. "Sir, we are entering the Kepler 442 system," reported Lieutenant Caxmore from his station. "All sensors are working normally." "No signs of enemy ships," Velthos nodded. This was just another routine patrol. The Empire sent fleets like his to remind everyone who was in charge. Sometimes they found pirates or rebels. When they did, the result was always the same: complete destruction. The Valdarian Empire had simple rules: obey or die. Pay your taxes or your planet gets burned. It had worked for centuries. Why would it stop working now? "Commander," called out the communications officer, "we are getting reports from the mining station on Kepler 442c. Production is up 12% this month." "The human slaves are working well." Velthos smiled, showing his sharp teeth. Humans made excellent workers. They were weak and easy to control, but they learned quickly. The Empire had captured thousands of them from their primitive world many years ago. Earth, they called it. A small blue planet with no real defenses. "Good," Velthos said. "The Emperor will be pleased. Continue monitoring all frequencies." The fleet moved deeper into the system, past the gas giant with its 12 moons, past the asteroid belt where automated mining ships collected rare metals. Everything was normal and quiet. Then the sensors started beeping. "Sir," Lieutenant Caxmore said, his voice confused, "I am detecting an unknown object in the asteroid field. It appears to be a ship." Velthos turned quickly. Unknown ships were rare. Most species in this part of space were either part of the Empire or too afraid to travel here. "Put it on the main screen," he ordered. The image appeared, and Velthos felt his stomach tighten. The ship was unlike anything in their databases. It was smaller than their cruisers, maybe the size of a frigate, but its design was strange. Smooth and angular at the same time. No visible weapons, but something about it made him nervous. "Sir, the ship is scanning us," reported the sensor operator. "Their technology is getting unusual. I cannot get a clear reading on their hull composition or power source." "Hail them," Velthos commanded. Standard Imperial protocol. The communications officer worked at his console for a moment, then shook his head. "Sir, they are not responding to our standard hails." "But wait. They are broadcasting on multiple frequencies." "Put it through the speakers." A calm voice filled the bridge. It spoke in perfect Valdarian, but there was something different about the accent. "This is Captain Deho of the Terran vessel Retribution. You are in violation of the Solar Federation's territorial claims. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences." Silence fell over the bridge. Velthos blinked his 3 eyes slowly. Terran, Solar Federation? These were terms he had never heard before. "Sir," whispered his second-in-command. "Terran means from Earth in the old human language." Velthos felt a chill run down his spine, but that was impossible. Earth was a conquered world. Humans were slaves. They had no ships, no technology, no military. The Empire had made sure of that decades ago. "Lieutenant," he said slowly, "scan that ship again. Are you certain it is of human origin?" "The design does not match any known human technology in our files, sir." "But the energy signatures? They are unlike anything we have seen before." Velthos thought quickly. This had to be some kind of trick. Maybe rebels using a stolen ship. Maybe another empire trying to fool them. There was no way humans could build something like this. He activated the fleet-wide communication system. "All ships, this is Commander Velthos. We have encountered an unknown vessel claiming to represent something called the Solar Federation. Prepare for standard boarding procedures. The response came immediately from Captain Deho. Commander Velthos, you have 30 seconds to comply with our request. This is your only warning. The entire bridge crew turned to look at their commander. A warning? From a single small ship? Against 12 heavy cruisers? The most powerful ships in the Valdarian fleet? Velthos felt anger replace his confusion. How dare these humans threaten him? He would show them what happened to those who defied the Empire. All ships, he broadcast, prepare to fire. Target the unknown vessel. Full power. Sir, said Lieutenant Caxmore, should we attempt to disable rather than destroy? We might learn something from their technology. No, Velthos snarled. These humans need to learn their place. Fire when ready. The weapons officer began the targeting sequence. 12 heavy cruisers turned their guns toward the small human ship. Enough firepower to destroy a small moon. Enough to turn any normal ship into glowing gas. Weapons locked and ready. Sir, the weapons officer reported. Sir, the communications officer interrupted. The human ship is broadcasting again. I do not care what they have to say, Velthos snapped. Fire all weapons! But even as he gave the order, he could not shake the feeling that something was very wrong. The human ship just floated there, making no attempt to run or hide. It did not even raise shields. What kind of captain would face 12 heavy cruisers without even trying to defend himself? Either Captain Deho was completely insane, or he knew something that Velthos did not. The weapons fired. Space lit up with the bright flash of energy beams and the trails of missiles, all of it heading straight for the small human ship. Velthos smiled as he watched the destruction approaching the Retribution. Soon this mystery would be over, and they could continue their patrol. The Empire's power would remain unquestioned. He had no idea that in the next few minutes everything he believed about the galaxy was about to change forever.